a great day. And let me know in the chat box if you guys can see me. Let me just adjust my camera a little bit. Got a little bit off kilter when I was doing another video. Sweet. Let's see. We got a lot of familiar faces today. Hey, Tio and Dominic and Thomas and Wolf. Hey, Wolf, I noticed that you just followed me on Twitter. It's about time, man. What took you so long? Oh, Tio, you're from Rome. Man, I loved Rome. Had a great time. That was 2006. I was in Rome. I loved it there. Really, really beautiful. Hope to go back there again soon. Excellent. Scott, Richard, thanks for letting me know. We're looking good. Sweet. So what I wanted to do today was, as the email that you got said, we wanted to look at how we can kind of use various stacks to customize what we're seeing on mobile devices. Now, I actually plan on going over a little bit more. I had to make the title short, or else, basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna learn how to various stacks to show and hide on all devices. So not just mobile, but and what are some of the drawbacks and some of the benefits of doing one way versus the other? Because there are, as they say, there's more than one ways to skin a cat, right? So there are a lot of ways to show and hide content out there. I have, just out of my stack selection, quite a number of things that we can do. So so we're going to look at a lot of that stuff today. And I guess without further ado, let's jump on in and have some fun. You're zoomed in, zoom out. I'm zoomed in. I'm zoomed in. There we go. I'm zoomed in. That was my dad telling me I was zoomed in. You better listen to your father, people. Listen to your parents. Right, kids? Listen to your parents. Okay. Is that better, Dad? Thumbs up. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's share my screen. Let me get all this set up here. I love that little effect. Makes me feel so pro. Okay. Got to get the little Weaver Space thing down here. Woo, we are on Weaver Space. Look at that. Okay. Okay. Hopefully I should be okay. Am I still zoomed in? It looks good from my side. Anyway. Hopefully you guys can see the screen. That's more important than zooming in on my beautiful face. Here, that zoomed in enough for you. Okay. Actually, I should probably just open up a sample, new project. Let's just open up a new project file inside RapidWeaver here. Obviously, we're going to add a stacks page because we all love stacks. So what I did here is, I did a little bit of prep today, and the only prep I really did was just kind of show I just created a little custom group here inside stacks that just has a bunch of stacks that we're going to be looking at today. And I'm not going to dive deeply into every single one of these. We're kind of going to give you an overview, a general on how you can use these various things to help you out. So yeah, there are two primary ways of showing and hiding stacks or content on your web pages. First off is something that you're going to see in most stacks. So this is just a straight up stacks one column up, and let me recenter this a little bit, and let's just hide that. Okay. So here we have a standard one column stack out of the box. A lot of stacks nowadays have the same settings up at the very top, right? So every stack has the same setting up at the top. And a lot of stacks, especially the newer stacks I'm releasing, kind of remove these settings from the stacks just to kind of reduce the amount of overhead that we have to get to the actual settings you want for a stack. But if you'll notice at the bottom of every single one of these stacks, you'll see that there's a stack settings called responsive. Okay. Now, you'll see that this says hide this stack on mobile, tablet, and desktop. Okay. So what does that do? Hopefully you've played around with that. Let's just add some text in here really quick. Okay. Oh, well, I am on a foundations, obviously a foundation theme. I'm just going to add a quick site styles up in here, just so that everything is good. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. I want to hide it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there, I've added my site styles into here. Now, if I preview this page, we're going to see, here, let's just add a little bit of padding to this just for fun. Okay. We preview that. We see that we have a beautiful web page that has some text. Okay. Now, that's what we would expect. Okay. But now I kept the settings for the one column over here on purpose. So what we could do is let's say hide on desktop. So if I choose hide on desktop, what should happen is, I expected that to kind of refresh. It didn't. Okay. Preview in browser. Okay, there it goes. Okay. Preview in browser works. Maybe because this is iPad with actually. Okay, let's just preview in browser. So we have I preview this in my browser and I set that to be hide on desktop. Now what we'll notice is this page is white because there's nothing in there. If I change the width a little bit, if we keep going down, all of a sudden once I hit a particular breakpoint, which is the tablet size and mobile size, okay, you'll notice that boom, we now get it's now hidden or displayed, right? Now here's a cool little fancy tip for you. If you want, if you go to inside the develop menu, I think I'm cutting it off really quick. Here, hold on one second. Let me just unhide. Let me hide myself. Okay, so if we hide me, if we go up to the develop menu in Safari, if you don't have it enabled, go ahead and the Safari preferences and enable that. You can go to responsive design mode, and this gives you this cool little view here. I know you all miss me, so let's put me back here. Okay. So inside of responsive design mode, if we go to, let's say, desktop view, we see that here. It is actually, okay, this is something that is a little, might be confusing for some people. This says 800, this says it's kind of desktop. You'd think this should be hidden because we said Safari, or we told the stack to actually hide on desktop, but it's being displayed here. Why is that, Joe? Well, the reason for this is that these controls are based off the actual pixels. So once your browser hits a particular pixel size, then that contents will be hidden. Now Bruno is giving me a good point, saying you should start from mobile and then go to bigger screens. Yes. I have an entire video on doing mobile design and progressive enhancement. While that workflow is great, I'll be honest, and over the years, like even if you follow that methodology, it's great. And maybe I'll review that today, Bruno. But a lot of times, because we design in the desktop, we all get stuck in a rut in terms of we design it for what it looks like on mobile, or I'm sorry, we design for what it looks like on desktop, and then we change it to be what's like it on mobile. Is designing for mobile first a good thing? Yeah, it can be. It could be a wonderful workflow. But a lot of times, we just, even myself, I just kind of get lazy. and the reality is, we're looking at our sites on our desktops, and we want to make sure that everything looks good on desktop because that's what we're designing it on. But more awareness of how things look on mobile is very important. But let me get back to this, and let's talk about how this hide this stack function works. It's all based on pixels, right? So, I wanted to show you this responsive design mode. It's really cool. It gives you an idea. Now, here we go. We see the iPad mini 7.9 inch. It's not displaying. But Joe, you said that this was on tablet. It would be, it should be shown, right? Well, iPads nowadays, and iPhones as well, like iPhones in landscape mode, right, have a ton of pixels. Like they have a lot of pixels. Okay, let me just get back to this. So we're just going to go manual adjustment here inside RapidWeaver, and so what we could do is here, just go here. So as you see, once I get to a particular pixel point, and if you notice, it is, I think it's what, 1,000 pixels, right? So once we hit 1,000 pixels, okay, if you, in RapidWeaver, if you hit manual adjustment, you can kind of adjust the size here. And what's kind of cool is it shows you the pixel size down on the bottom. So once the size of the browser goes below 1,000 pixels, we can now see this text. Okay, above 1,000 pixels, we can't. Okay, now a lot of times what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, you know, chances are on desktop you're going to want to show more data than you do on mobile. Okay, so if we click hide this on mobile and we preview this again, we can go ahead and adjust this down. And once we hit, I believe it's I forget the exact pixel size. I think it's 600 pixels. Oh, 620. Oh. Looks like it's 640 pixels. Yeah. Once we go below 640 pixels, now I have to say this, when you're using Foundation theme, Foundation changes the hide the stack to be the same breakpoints as Foundation. Okay, so that is important because these breakpoints on any other theme could be something different, right? I forget what stack sets it to, but if you're using Foundation, the hide the stack correlates to the same breakpoints of inside Foundation for mobile, tablet, and desktop. Now, I know some of you are wondering, Joe, you mentioned Foundation. When is Foundation 2 coming? Soon. It'll be this year. It is in the works, and we will have 4 breakpoints now instead of 3. So that's a little fun. Okay. Now, what is different about this, Joe? Now, text is very very simple thing. And if we look at this, so let's go ahead. What did I have this set to? Let's say hide on mobile. And let's say we're going to hide this on mobile and tablet. Okay. So there we go. I'm going to refresh that. And it's gone. Now it's gone from view, but it's still there. Okay. Now this isn't too important for text, but let's show you. So I'm going to open up the dev inspector. And if we go ahead and look at the contents of this page, I'm actually looking at the actual HTML right now. Let's look at, here it is. If we go into here, scroll down, there it is. Boom. Okay. So if we notice inside the browser, this is still there. Okay. All that stack is doing, all those buttons are doing, are adding some classes to the code that basically says when we reach a particular point, okay, in the browser width, go ahead and hide this content. Okay. Now that is very important, okay, because this goes into one of my main things that I want to talk about today, is that there is a really big difference between hiding content and shipping just the content that you want to a browser. Now, a lot of times people, what they'll do is, let's say images are a big one, or video is another one. Okay. They'll say, hide this particular image or this gallery on mobile, or or this video, hide it on mobile so that, you know, because that's going to make my page load faster. Well, it won't. Okay. Because as you saw, that content still exists when you're using those settings. So the browser will still load it. It's still going to load images. It's still going to load the video that you want. It's just getting hidden. So be careful. You know, I've seen some people like design entire layouts, and then they say hide this on desktop, and then, or, you know, show this layout on mobile, and then they replicate the entire layout and say show this one on desktop. Now, in theory, that sounds great, right? Because then on mobile, you're going to get this really cool layout that is special just for mobile. And then on desktop, you'll get something else, right? But if you look at the code, all of that stuff is getting loaded. So just be careful in terms of what you're doing when you're designing. Make sure that your progressive enhancement is a great idea. So Bruno earlier in the chat box talked about mobile first design. And this was one of the big premises of when I launched Foundation. And check out the video; it's still relevant today, in all the benefits of that it gives you. In reality, I know a lot of us we design for desktop first. I have to admit, even I do. And then what I do is I resize down to mobile, and I see, right. It's just reality. Um, and it's not just in Rapweaver. I mean, you talk to people that design websites for a living, like hand coding sites. And while the premise behind mobile first design was, it still is a great idea. And that premise is basically you design your site for mobile. Okay, make your site as simple as possible so that it looks great on a mobile device. Then you progressively enhance it. Basically, you say, okay, this is exactly the page I want on mobile. And then what you do is you then go to tablet size and you go, okay, now I'm going to design it for tablet. And then you add content or you change the layout based on your new slightly wider screen size. And then after you got your tablet size hammered down, you then go to desktop and then you can add some more content and more stuff like that, right? So it's a really smart way to work. If you have, if you're strict with yourself and that, that's exactly what you do. If that's the workflow, right? That you're keeping yourself to, it really, really works. It does. It's smart. But in reality, most of us, we want to get something done quick and we want to see it on desktop, right? And so anyway, getting back to it, showing and hiding content via these hide the stack button is great for small things, but and maybe an image or two here or there, if it's small, okay. But there are better ways to do that, and we're going to review that later today. Next up is now images. If you're using Foundation with images, that's going to be a big part, right? Because we want to show particular images. Maybe when we want a smaller image on mobile and a larger image on desktop, right? Using this hide this stack functionality to do that is not the way to do it, okay? Because it's every single image is going to be loaded on the page, whether or not it's actually displayed or not. And if you want, actually, we can actually even have a look at that. Let's go ahead and take a gander at that. So let's go ahead. I'm going to add a couple images into here. I'm just going to drag and drop some of my demo images that I have. Let's add this one, and let's go ahead and add this one. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this top one on mobile, and then this one I can display all the time. Okay. So if we preview this page, hello, what happened? Oh, haha! I had hide that entire column on mobile turn on. Okay, let's refresh that. Okay, so now I have two big images. Oh, that looks really horrible. Hold on one second. Let's just fix that really quick. Let's just do two column. Oops, where to put that? One, two. Okay, that's good. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, this actually isn't practical because I'm gonna be hiding one of these on. Oh no, it's fine, right? So on mobile we have that, and when we get a tablet, we got two images. That actually kind of works, right? Interesting layout. There we go. So this is a perfect example of on mobile we only need one image, okay, but on desktop and tablet we want more than one because we're going to go to two columns. So this kind of gives us a richer experience when we have a wider browser, right? Perfect example here. I kind of did that by accident, but we'll say that I planned it that way because I was smart. Yeah. So great example here. Now, but if we look at this, right, even if I refresh this, so we're on mobile layout. If we look at this, right, I'm going to open up the browser inspector. And if we look at the resources, we'll see that both images are still downloaded, even though this one is hidden. Okay, I just wanted to show you guys that. By using these hide this stack layouts, okay, it will, both images will still be loaded. So we're getting the benefit of our page being cleaner on mobile, but our mobile users, mobiles has more than just one constraint, right? One constraint is page width, and that solves this, right? We have a smaller screen, we have less content now, but there's other constraints such as bandwidth, right? Mobile is a lot of times it's on an LTE, 3G or LTE network, or even like an edge, God forbid. Those are really horribly slow, right? So downloading this is going to be slower on a mobile device because we're downloading 2 images. Okay. And regardless, that we're not even take into effect that these images are 1200 pixels wide, right? Which is probably a lot bigger, something, that's way too big probably for a mobile, right? Although we have retina displays and things to think about that, but yeah, we won't get into that right now. So what can we do, right? This is better, right? We are getting a better layout. People on mobile devices are going to see less content. They can get to the main beef or the main meat of the page without the fluff. They don't need 2 images, right? One image will be sufficient on a mobile device. Okay. So what are some things that we can do with images? First off, let's look at the foundation image stack. So if you're using the foundation image stack, congratulations. It is a great stack. And let's look at what we can do here. Inside foundation image, it allows you to load a different image on mobile, tablet, and desktop. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to load 3 different images. There's the mobile image. I'm going to put that image for tablet, and let's put a different image, this one for desktop. Okay, so I put in 3 completely different images here to kind of just show you when I resize the browser how the images are loaded dynamically. But probably what you're going to do is you're going to have a lower resolution image for mobile than you do on desktop, right? Now, mobile if it's actually progressively enhanced. So if you add only a mobile image, that mobile image will be used for tablet and desktop. If you add a mobile and a tablet, then mobile will be used on mobile devices. Tablet will be used for tablet and desktop. So it kind of moves up. It is mobile first. Okay. Foundation is mobile first. That's how all of that works. Okay. Now you might see here, there's a checkbox called always load mobile first. Now, what is that? If we uncheck that, now we're loading it locally. You're probably not going to really notice because it's all really, really fast. First off, let's see. We see here that as I go big, the images actually change based on the breakpoint. Okay. Now, what you're not seeing is not all 3 of these images are loaded on page load, right? So if I go ahead and if I refresh this, if we look at the resources, we'll notice that only one of those images was loaded, right? Only the one was loaded. Now, once I get to a particular breakpoint, that image is then dynamically loaded. There's that one. Okay. And if I keep going, now we see the large image. Okay. So these are, what's really cool about this is only the image. Now, if we're on, let's go to, if we're in tablet view and we refresh the page, notice that only the medium image was downloaded. Okay. The small image was not downloaded. The large image was not downloaded. Okay. So that's a benefit of the foundation image stack, where we can really we can define what image we want for what size, and only that one image will get loaded for that particular breakpoint. And if the user resizes, their browser, and foundation sees, hey, this person changed their browser size, he's now at a bigger size, it can then in the background load the different image, maybe a higher res version, and replace it for you. Okay. Now, let me go back to this setting it is checked by default, this always load mobile first. Now, what Foundation is doing is on page load, it uses JavaScript to look at the browser size And then based on the browser size, it'll download whichever one it wants. Now, if this is a large image, now again, I'm working on it locally, so we're not going to notice because there's no latency, right? But if we were, this was loading off the internet, or if I was on a mobile connection, it could take a second for, this area could be blank at first, right? So it could be blank, and then it might take a second for that image to load. Because what happens is no image is loaded on page load until JavaScript runs, and then is determined, and JavaScript will pull the image down. Now, if you check this box, always load mobile image first, okay, what happens is on page load, again, we're local, so this is just happening really, really fast. What happens is if we look at the inspector, we'll notice that the mobile image loaded, so did the large image. So what happens is on page load, the browser will download the mobile image, and then after JavaScript runs, JavaScript realizes, hey, actually, we could download a higher res version, the large image, and then replaces the mobile version of the image. Okay, so why is this good? This is great if you're using lower res images on mobile, and then you're basically your desktop could be higher res. So what happens is on desktop, it will load the lower res version immediately. And again, it looks immediate because I'm all running local. Everything is local on my machine, so it doesn't need to download anything. But once we're online, it'll download the lower res version. JavaScript will run, check out if we can use a higher res version. And if we can, it will download the higher res version and replace it for us. So this does cause us to have two downloads, okay? But it gives us, on page load, a nicer page load speed. Or a page load look, right? We don't have flash of unstyled content. Flouk is what they call it, flash of unstyled content. So that is what that setting does. And now another thing you could do is you can say preload. And what that does is if you put in the dimensions of the image, if you turn this off, if you turn off always load on mobile first and turn on preload, if you put in the actual image dimensions, let me look at what the size of this is. 1500 by 1000 pixels. So I'd put in 1500 by 1000 pixels. Okay. And then what happens is, again, this is all local, so you're not going to really notice. Okay. But what it does is, if before the image is downloaded, it kind of reserves that place where the image would be, so that your content isn't shifting around after the image is loaded. So that's what that preload means. Okay. Let me look at the chat box really quick. Let's see. People change their practices, including their hats. Yes, Paul. Always changing my hats. Simulator does not always work in all examples. Yes, very good point. As we saw, sometimes simulator. That's actually a point I should note. While we can change the size of this browser window and look at what it looks like on mobile, this just gives us an idea, right? This is just a simulation of what it could look like on mobile, right? So you can never substitute actual experience of looking on a website, interacting with it on a mobile, than you can with looking at it in a browser. When we're in a browser on our desktop, not only are we have a faster connection, okay, we also have mice or mices, right, that we can use to interact with the web pages. We don't have any of that on a mobile device, right? On a mobile device, we're most likely going to be out and about on an LG network, and we have fingers. We don't have mouses to scroll. We have swipes. We have touches. Things can work different on a mobile device than they do when you're looking at it on a browser. So while a browser is a good litmus test, you always need to make sure that you test things on an actual mobile device when you're ready to do live. So publish it online. Make sure that you check it on a mobile device, on an actual mobile device. Now, if you have the iPhone simulator, I've done videos on this too, where if you have Xcode, there's an iPhone simulator. That gets us really, really close. But at that point, just if hopefully you have a mobile device, a smartphone, iPhone, or an Android, check it on there. Okay. Obviously, there's differences between iPhone and Android as well. Yeah. Same thing as like, Safari versus Chrome sort of thing. Okay. So that deals with foundation image. Tell how not to deliver unseen content on mobile. I'm getting there, Danny. We're getting there. Okay. So all of this is great, but now we want to look at other ways that we can actually hide content and actually not send it down to the server at all. So how can we do that? How can we customize our page and not have the content sent to the browser? So that gives us a really custom experience, with not only sending out the data we want down to the browser, but also not slowing things down. So actually speeding things up. And there are a bunch of stacks to do that. And they all do it in various different ways. Oh, one thing, actually, okay, before I get into that, there's actually one more stack I wanted to show, and that's the foundation visibility stack. It is very similar to the hide the stack functionality. It just gives us a little bit more granular control over various things. So inside visibility, we can say show or hide, and then you can do other things like tablet up, portrait. You can also target portrait mode. So you can target portrait and landscape. You can target touch devices, screen readers, and so on and so forth. Okay, so but again, this suffers from the same issues as the hide the stack buttons. Okay, where the data is still downloaded to the browser, just whether or not you can see it or not. So it helps with layout, but it doesn't help with speed. Okay. So all the rest of the stacks that are inside this little group that I have here all help us with determining whether or not only if content is displayed, but whether it's sent down to the browser at all. Okay. The first obvious example of this is agent. Okay. So inside agent, agent is a stack set. As if you see here, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stacks in the set. I actually think there's one more in the set that I didn't add to this group. It's called agent test, but it's fine. What agent does is it allows you to target a device. Okay. So you can target a mobile device, you can target a tablet desktop, or you can even target bots, which it attempts to target like whether or not Google is searching your site, or it's kind of hard to test this. But in theory, with this button, this bots button, it knows whether or not Google is trolling your site. So if a particular connection is from Google or not, you could show or display data based on that. Next, you could say whether or not they're on a desktop, a tablet, or a mobile. Okay. And these are very different than the hide the stack functionality. Okay. Because what this does, and you can even get down, if you click the plus button, you can even get down to specific browsers and specific platforms. So you could say if someone's on a Mac, if someone is on iOS, if someone is on Windows, you can really target. Now this is great for not necessarily speed, but let's say you have an app and you want to give Mac users a download button to your Mac version. You want to give Windows users a download to your Windows version. This is exactly how you would do that. You could target platforms here. Okay. Now, stuff like targeting TVs, I think that part of the world is still changing a lot. And I actually have tested it. And I tested game console as well. My PlayStation, I have a PlayStation and Switch, and they all have web browsers. And I actually did test it. Now, I didn't have a BlackBerry to test, but from stuff I learned around the web, we could target that. I think BlackBerry's a dying breed anyway. But with game consoles and TV, a lot of that is kind of like the Wild West of stuff. It worked in my tests, in my TV and on my game consoles. It was an interesting test. Not sure the exact use case, but if you want to target, those particular devices, maybe give a custom thing for if you have something sort of game or something like that, maybe you can link to a PlayStation store. I don't know if you could do that. Something to test out, but interesting. But I think most of us are going to be using it for, either targeting a platform or targeting just devices in general. Now, how is this different? If I were to do this, right? So if I say hide this on mobile, okay, here let's add in an image, okay. If I say hide this on mobile, how is this different than hide the stack? So what happens is in the background, okay, here let me hold on 1 second. So how does agent work? Okay, in a lot of these other stacks, is agent runs on the server. It uses PHP on your server, and it checks something with every single request. Okay, from the browser, there is data there's special data as a part of their request that you don't see, and one of those is something called the user agent. Hence, why I called this product agent. Okay, what agent does is it looks at that user agent and parses it. And as a part of that user agent, we see the browser, we see the operating system. A lot of times we get the operating system version, right? This is how stuff like Google Analytics and if you're using Matomo or Piwik or Go Squared or Clicky or any of those analytics tools, this is how it gets all that information. It just parses the user agent string and then it stores it for you and then gives you stats. Okay. So agent is taking that user agent data and saying, okay, I am on a mobile device. Does this mean, does the user want to send this data down to the browser or not? So all that data, all that visibility control is done on the server. So in this instance of this stack, I can say on mobile devices, don't send this data to the browser. And at that point, it is not sent. Now, there are some caveats, okay, to this. This is very powerful. It works with a lot of stacks. There are some stacks, though, that use JavaScript, and their JavaScript isn't intelligent enough to know that the data might not be on the web page. So agent will remove let's say, for example, let's take something like if I had a slider on the page. Okay, let's say I had moving box. Now, I think moving box actually works with agent, but let's just pretend it doesn't. Okay. Let's say you have an entire slider that has maybe tons of images and you don't want to send that moving box down to mobile. Now, agent will remove all of the data from the HTML page, okay, from the actual HTML. It will remove all of that. So we won't get the images. We won't have any of the slideshow data at all on the web page on a mobile device. Now, moving box also has some JavaScript. Now, agent, it's not possible to remove the JavaScript from the page. So that JavaScript will still get loaded in the browser, but that's, in terms of speed, very minimal, right? All of it's gzipped and compressed, and the browser optimizes it. So I wouldn't really worry about that much. But that JavaScript does still exist on the page. And when that JavaScript loads, it's going to look for moving box. And let's say if agent doesn't put moving box there and it kind of plops it out of the page, that JavaScript is going to go, hey, I need to create moving box, but it's not there. And it could bomb and it could error out. And depending on the product, that JavaScript may cause JavaScript errors on the page, which could potentially cause other kind of a domino effect. JavaScript is kind of annoying in that if there's one error on the page, anything that runs after it could potentially break. So it could break some other things on the page. This is one reason why, if we look at agent in particular, there is a compatibility mode checkbox inside agent. And what that does is it kind of turns agent into pretty much like the old technology was, where it'll still hide that particular data, okay, but it will still actually exist in the browser. So it kind of brings back that functionality. It's not the best, but it does still allow you to target particular devices and still hide content at least. It will still load on the browser. So the ultimate thing is, especially if you're using any of my stacks and you're like, hey, Joe, I put this stack in agent and I had to use compatibility mode. Please let me know. And I will make it so that particular stack is compatible with agent. Obviously, there's a gazillion stacks. I have, 130 products, and some of those have 10, 20 stacks inside of them. So we're hundreds and hundreds of stacks. I haven't tested them all inside Agent. So if you're using any of my products, please let me know. And if you want to let other developers know, if they want to contact me to see what they need to do, it's like one line of JavaScript that just says, hey, if my thing exists, exit, else, then load the slider or whatever it is, right? But compatibility mode will at least give you a temporary solution to this until that particular piece of code or that stack can be fixed. So that gives us a workaround. Now, I'm not going to go through and give a full-blown tutorial on what Agent does. You can do a lot, right? So Agent, again, you can target particular devices. Today, that's very pertinent because you can target tablet, mobile, desktop, and robots, okay, or particular platforms, as we saw. But there's a lot of other things that you could do. Like here, Agent Lang, this stack's really cool in that what it does is there's not much settings here, but what it does is you can target the language of the browser. Okay, so as a part of that user agent also comes the actual browser settings as well. So we could see that if a browser is set to be English or German or Spanish or whatever, you can then customize the content based on that language. Okay, pretty cool stuff. So that's kind of a unique way of doing multi-language websites. Agent Preview. This is the one I was thinking about earlier. Agent Preview allows you to use this with all the stacks to basically help you customize what you see. Because when you preview a page inside RapidWeaver, obviously we're on a Mac and it's going to think you're in Safari. But if you wanted to test what something looks like in Android, this particular Agent Preview will let you customize the user agent inside RapidWeaver Preview. So you could say, pretend we're on a mobile that's running iOS that's on Chrome or in Safari, right? So this lets you test your various agent stacks inside RapidWeaver Preview, okay? Next is Agent Redirect. This actually helps you redirect stuff. So if you wanted on mobile, you wanted to redirect users to a particular URL, or if you wanted to target tablet or desktop or anybody, you can actually redirect based on a device. So if you really wanted a particular layout for mobile, maybe you could have a custom mobile designed web page. That's kind of how old school way we used to do it, but sometimes that just works. It could really maybe you redirect people to mobile.mydomain.com or something like that. There's still a lot of use cases for that. If that's what you wanted, a completely custom, completely different experience on mobile, right? Agent URL. This stack will allow you to basically pass parameters to a URL. Let's say like location. You could say like location equals San Francisco or location equals London in the URL. So you could do like question mark location equals whatever, and then based on that data that's passed to the URL, you can display data or not, right? So that's a pretty actually really useful. A lot of people use Agent URL for multi-language sites as well. So they'll do lang equals en or lang equals de or lang equals s or es for Spanish, right? So on and so forth. So Agent's really cool. You should look at that one. That's a good one. So other ones we can look at. TARDIS, it doesn't look at user agent, but it looks at time. Okay, so if you wanted to display data based on time, let's say you had a product launch and you wanted to display some content. And what's cool about TARDIS is, again, all of this is done on the server. So there's no hacks in terms of the data sometimes being displayed on the browser, but just hidden. It is not on the browser at all. And it won't be in the browser until a particular time window is here. And you could do, before, during, and after time windows. So you could say, before this time, display this content. During this time window, display something else. After this time has passed, display something even else, right? So you can really help automate stuff, especially if you're doing launches or things of that nature. Really, really useful. And it has, total CMS integration. It also has this cool yearly thing, which if you want to, let's say during December or maybe November and December of every month or every year, you wanted to display something on a site. this is exactly what you would use TARDIS for. So, here we from December 23rd to January 3rd every year, we would display something during that window. Okay, so TARDIS is a really great way of controlling content based on time. There's also TARDIS days. And again, this all works on the server, same thing. And this is kind of like a weekly thing or monthly thing. So you could say, on particular days of the month or particular days of the week, every week or every month, display this data. Okay, really cool. And you can also do a time window. So this is useful if you have a local shop and you're like, I want to display content from, let's say, I want to say we're open, right, from Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m., right? And then outside of that window, you want to display something different. This is exactly how you would do that with TARDIS. And again, this can have anything you want in it. It can have entire layouts or maybe a special promotion or something like that. And again, all of it's controlled on the server, right? So very, very different. You can really customize the experience, for users based on time, not just devices. The next ones are kind of some more esoteric stuff. If you're ever using something like SiteLock, there's a VisiLock stack inside SiteLock. Now, SiteLock is a great tool. It's not mine. I have some stacks that let you integrate it with RapWeaver very easily. VisiLock is a perfect example of using the same server hiding technology, but it's based on whether or not someone is logged in, okay, or logged out, or whether or not they're a member of a group or not a member of a group, or they have a specific username. There's all kinds of interesting use cases here with VisiLock. And VisiLock also has this compatibility mode. Same thing. If a lot of these server hiding stacks have this compatibility mode. If you see that with one of my stacks that you have to use it, please let me know. I want to make sure that all my stacks are compatible without compatibility mode enabled. So please let me know. Just shoot me an email at support@weavers.space, and I'll make sure that gets fixed. Okay. Next up with Total CMS, we have Toggle, right? This is a way of displaying data, to a user based on inside the CMS, they can toggle on and off particular data. And again, that is the same thing. It's controlled on the server. So the data is never sent to the browser. Okay. Again, unless that toggle is turned on or off. And a lot of times I should also mention that a lot of these can be used in conjunction with things, right? So like, let's say, for agent, you wanted to have this toggle inside of an agent and only on mobile, something like that, right? So you can really combine a lot of these stacks together to create some really interesting logic where in this particular case, I have a toggle inside agent that only displays on mobile. So really, we can toggle on and off stuff only on mobile devices. And again, we're not going to have much page speed impact because that data is controlled on the server side. Next up, here's an interesting one: Geo Cloudflare and Geo Target. They're essentially the same stack. Geo Cloudflare, basically, if you're using Cloudflare, I recommend using that one. It's just a little bit easier to set up because Cloudflare does it for you. Geo Target, you have to kind of set up an API key with this provider. And what this one does is it allows you to geo target stuff. So it allows you to display content to a user whether or not they're in a particular location. So it does all this by IP address. So similarly to agent, along with that request is the IP address of the user. So basically you could say, and then what the stack does is it says, I got an IP address for this request. I see that it looks up and it says, I see that this IP address is in London or England. And then based on that data, you can then display maybe prices in pounds or, display I love you or, display picture of the queen or something like that. Right. So this allows you to really target people based on their location or IP address. Now, actually, a couple weeks ago, I got a request from someone to actually target a specific IP address. I'll probably be adding that into GeoTarget. So basically, I'll add a new stack in there called GeoIP or something like that. And then you can target someone based on a specific IP. And what's interesting about that is, let's say you wanted to limit access to a page based on IP address or something like that. I thought that would be a pretty cool idea. So that'll come in a GeoTarget update coming soon. Next, the last one is, now this is kind of esoteric and something unique. But Portal is an interesting way. So as I said earlier, let me back up. Something like Agent. Okay, I think Agent is a great stack. It really, really is. And I said it will customize what is sent down to the browser. It'll customize the HTML, but the JavaScript and the CSS and whatnot, it will still get sent out. Okay. Now I haven't actually. Okay, let me put out a disclaimer here really quick. I actually haven't tested this particular layout yet. But Portal allows you to import content into a web page. So let's say, for example, Portal is kind of like a partial, but on the server, right? So we've all used partials, hopefully inside stacks. And Portal allows you to basically take that partial concept and put it on the server. Now, if you were to use something in conjunction with like Agent and Portal, it would actually be, you'd actually have Portal out inside Agent. So basically, in theory, this should actually work pretty well. So if you had some data like an entire layout or something like that you wanted to only display on desktop, okay, what you could do is you could say Agent desktop, and then you could use Portal to import that page. So essentially, what this says is, Agent, if you see that we're on a desktop, then import this page. Now the benefit of this is that because Portal encapsulates not only the HTML, but also the JavaScript and the CSS. This could get around a lot of issues, or, it could make things even more performant, right? Again, JavaScript and CSS are minimal because they're all gzipped and really, really small. But if you wanted to go really go all out, this combination could really be powerful. I'm pretty sure I've seen people on Hangouts use this. Yeah. I think this, again, I haven't used this particular example. I have used it I've actually used Toggle with Portal. I have used that. So in theory, Agent is the same. But you could really use this conjunction to really customize what is going to be added to the page based on the actual device, not just the browser width, the actual device. So, yeah, so hopefully, Danny, that answered your question. I know it took me a while to get to how do we, stop sending the data down to the mobile device based on the actual device, not just the browser width. And that is all done with Agent. And, I went through a few other things, such as TARDIS can do with time, GeoTarget can do with IP address, Visilock, whether or not you're logged in or not. I guess actually another one is that I missed, and it's actually my stack. Similar to Visilock is actually PageSafe. So with PageSafe, there's a stack called StackSafe, and it's the same thing as Visilock, but it's with PageSafe. So you can actually display content whether or not a user is logged in or not. So StackSafe does exactly that. And again, all that's controlled on the server. So the server knows whether or not the user is logged in, and it will download the content whether or not they're logged in or not. This is important if you want to have some data that is maybe you have to pay for it, so only people that actually have access get to see it, right? This is the perfect way to do that. So when someone visits a page, and they're not logged in, they would just see a normal web page. But then if you're logged in with PageSafe, you could see more data, right? Maybe data they paid for, or maybe a different blog list. If you're using something like Total CMS, like you can have one blog list whether or not they're logged in, and a different blog list whether or not they are logged in, something like that. Pretty interesting idea. So yeah, StackSafe is another good one that comes with my PageSafe stacks. Any other questions? Anything that I could review? Yeah, hopefully, if you have any questions after this video, after we're done here, go ahead and post onto Weaver Space. Again, community.weavers.space. If you're not a member, it is my online community for RapidWeaver. I think it's a really great place to be. It's a fun community, a lot of really great people, really experienced users that are always happy to help out new users, and I hope to see you over there. Please post any questions. I'm happy to answer them, and hope you enjoyed today. I was kind of went all over the place a little bit, but hopefully it made sense in the end. So yeah, again, just recap. Based on browsers, a lot of that hide this stack stuff, it really is hit or miss whether or not what use it for. Use it sparingly. Don't use it on things that will potentially have a performant impact on mobile device and page speed, and start looking at stuff like TARDIS and Agent and toggles and If you want login, VisiLock and with SiteLock and stack safes and stuff like that for really controlling that content on the server side. I guess one thing I wanted to actually talk about one more thing before I go. And there was actually one stack that I even had in this group and I skipped over it. And I wanted to review this stack last week, but I kind of ran out of time. And it actually does, it's very pertinent to today's topic as well, and that's Slot Machine. Because with Slot Machine, you can display random data. Okay, let me just go ahead and let's just put in some stacks in here. So as you see with Slot Machine, I could just add as many slots as I want into here. And then when I preview this, let me add another one. Let me just throw it in one column so that it's not full width. Okay. Oh, that's fine. Okay. So what Slot Machine does is it will randomly display. Yeah, I know I have duplicate pages. It's fine. Thank you, Foundation. As I refresh this page, you'll see that it's randomly choosing one of the 3 images that I put into there. Now, what's cool about Slot Machine versus there are other stacks out there that do similar things, but what's unique about Slot Machine is the same thing I've been talking about all day is it's all done on the server side. So Slot Machine randomly chooses one of these slots based on the server and only sends one down to the browser, right? And just to prove that, if we preview this, if we look at this, we notice there's only one image in our resources for this browser, right? There's only one image here, and that's because only one image was downloaded because Slot Machine only sent one image down to the browser, and it randomly chose one. Slot Machine's super easy to use. The only setting here is really only for edit mode because it just collapses it in edit mode here. But yeah, you can add as many slots as you want, and all that data is randomized and randomly chosen on the server and sent down. And it's really important. I've seen so many people, have, especially like with Slot Machine, like there are other stacks out there that basically randomly do that with JavaScript in the browser. And while you think that's cool because you only see one in the browser, it's not cool because sometimes those people will have 40 or 50 images that they want to random. And what they don't know is in the background, all of those images are being downloaded. And yeah, it's really tough because doing something like that from the server is so much better. And it's really hard for, I talk to people a lot of times like, well, how do you know? Like, how do you as the user know when something like that is happening, whether or not, Slot Machine is really better than something else. Right. And, well, hopefully, that I develop good stuff. And I really care about not only cool stuff for you, but also what's best for you. So I really look out. I always try to do what's really the best in terms of website performance is very important to me. And I want to make sure that everything that we do is performant and works the best that it can. And I take the extra time, weeks, to iron out very small details that really make something the difference, like Slot Machine does, where it's doing it on the server instead of in the browser. The browser thing, I could probably code that in probably 5 minutes. To do it all on the server is a little bit more complicated. And just hopefully you enjoy all the products that we make for you, the quality and the attention that I take to give you stuff like this. And hopefully you'll enjoy all these products. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. And we'll see you soon on Weaver Space. Hopefully we'll see you on our Hangouts on Friday. Really, really fun. They're different than these live streams. Right now, these live streams are kind of one way, where it's like me. I can see the chat box. And Gunter, thank you very much. And Dominic, I appreciate it. Thomas, thank you very much for interacting in the chat room. But our Hangouts are really epic. They're very I use Zoom, and I don't record them. What happens in the Hangouts stays in the Hangouts. It is very interactive. So if you ever attended my conference before, it's exactly the same as like our breakout sessions there, our hallway track, and we really interact with each other one on one. I see you, you see me. You can share your screen. I can share my screen. It's really a really fun time. We always have anywhere from 5 to a dozen people joining from all over the world. We have people from Australia, from Germany. I know a lot of people that are here today in the chat room are actually regular members. Every Friday on our Hangout, it starts at 1:30 p.m. Pacific on Fridays. So figure out what time zone that is for you. And if you go to the Weaver Space homepage, on the very bottom in the footer, there is a link, and it's just weavers.space/hangout. If you go to that at the right time, it will launch the Hangout for you. You could join. We have a lot of great time. I'm working on some new web pages and events page for Weaver Space. Hopefully I'll have that up by the end of the month, and that will have kind of the schedule for these live streams as well as Hangouts, so that you can know about all the other cool stuff. Also, we have a cool calendar that we have that lets you see all the events that we have as well, and that we can subscribe to that calendar, and it could be right on your phone or your desktop, and you can kind of see the schedule of events that we have coming up every week. And also the Weaver Space Conference, I'm gonna announce the date by the end of this month as well. It'll be most likely sometime in October this year. So I'll be announcing the date for Weaver Space Conference by the end of the month, and hopefully we'll see you there. That's a really fun 3-day conference, all 100% virtual, online, really fun. And I'll stop talking your ear off, everyone. Thank you very much for being awesome and being a member of the Weaver Space community. I really appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying it, and go out and make something great this week, and make sure you share it with everyone so we can pat you on the back. So take care. See you next week.